there, you're welcome to this newscast on the Dan Broadcasting System Television. We begin with the headlines. The court case beating the Catholic Church and a sports parents consortium has been dropped. That is reported to have happened today at the court of first instance in Bamenda. And in another newscast, a wave of installations have been taking place over the national territory. If it is not with the divisional officers being installed, it is a vigilante committee. They all have a major responsibility to ensure security and peaceful cohesion in the country. Those were our headlines. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this newscast on the Dan Broadcasting System Television. National pedagogy inspectors in the German language are boosting up their capacity so as to lecture this language in secondary schools. This is in the course of a 3-day seminar that opened today in Yaoundé, and it was officiated by the Ministry of Secondary Education. Francis Bongo has the details.
It was under the theme, The German Class in the Face of Challenges of Multiculturalism and Living Together, that the 3-day national seminar of National Pedagogic Inspectors in German opened here at the Pedagogic Action Support Unit in Yaoundé. The seminar, jointly organized by the Ministry of Secondary Education and the German Goethe Institute, aims at redefining strategies for an effective pedagogic intervention in the ranks of teachers in relation with manuals, classwork, and evaluations following the competence-based approach. In her opening speech, Dr. Catherine Awunja, Inspector General of Education at BINISEC, explained that the theme of this seminar ties with the context lived in certain regions of our country and put forward the importance of valorizing diverse cultural existence as an element of togetherness. The opening ceremony saw the presence of representatives from the German embassy in the country who revealed that Cameroon holds the world record of most learners of the German language per its population, over 200,000 to be specific. According to the organizers of this seminar, a decline in the teaching standards of German language teachers was not the raison d'etre of the joining, because the level in the country is very appreciative.
I think it's very important to do vocational training all the time with the teachers in order to get them on an experienced level. I think that the teachers here are well trained. I mean, the teachers who come from the ENS, they are well-trained teachers, and since a lot of time we do vocational training, or we offer vocational training for German teachers all over the country. Yeah, I think the niveau or the level is quite high. We have a network with the German Teachers Associations. We have a network with the ministry. We have a network with the students. So we work together with all the levels.
By the end of this seminar, among other items to be validated, shall be the collection of necessary data for the upgrading of the German program in the second cycle.
We heard in our headlines that the court case beating the Catholic Church and a sports parents consortium has been dropped. Amadou Jaloboba in this newscast tells us that the case was dropped at the court of first instance in Bamenda. His report.
The Bamenda Court of First Instance has discontinued hearing of the case brought before it by the Consortium of Parents and Peoples as plaintiff and archbishops of the Catholic Church in Bamenda and Kumbo and leaders of the CBC Church as defendants. That decision was arrived at Monday, September 25, 2017 at the court premises in Bamenda. The case, it should be recalled, has suffered few adjournments. It's been described by some legal minds as void of any seriousness.
We came ready to raise so many issues which we were convinced, and we remain convinced, that the matter would have been thrown out. It's a storm in a teacup. I think at this particular moment in the history of this country, and it's what we are all living through, this was throwing more petrol into fire that was already going off. There is time for us to sit down and dialogue. You can see the crowds that are following the leaders.
The case, it should be noted, is as a result of the ongoing Anglophone crisis caressing the Northwest and Southwest regions. The matter appears to be far from being over as far as the defense lawyers are concerned. What is the new twist the matter is going to take is a wait-and-see issue, but what is clear is that the church leaders can now go to bed with both eyes closed.
After an incident or a recent incident that occurred around Bopi, that's the oil-fueled tankers at SDP, security has been tightened with vendors asked around that area to vacate and to move to another location. This for the purpose of their own security. The decision was made today by Governor Samuel Dieudonné Ivahadiboa. Details with student journalist Ramatu CKB.
The incident that occurred at the Cameroon National Petroleum Depot, SCDP, at Bopi neighborhood on Monday, 22nd September 2017, has called for more vigilance and security around this area. The governor of Littoral Region, Samuel Dieudonné Ivahadiboa, ordered the vendors to leave the premises for their security purpose.
It is because of the explosion that happened here that they ask us to go, and I think the governor is right, because if not of God, this thing would kill people.
The security perimeters was immediately established around this place to stop people from moving and trading. However, the petty traders who were in this locality had to move to their present location under the railway line.
They have asked us to come and stay here for a while because of the bomb that happened. But here we are insecure because of the robbery and lack of street lights.
The incident has implanted panic to the inhabitants of Douala, creating awareness to Cameroonians to be more vigilant and to reinforce security.
The new divisional officer for Douala 4 has been installed. Ekwe Marie-Jeanne Barga, who has taken up the task of ensuring peaceful cohabitation of locals, fight against urban disorder, banditism, amongst others. He was installed this afternoon by the senior divisional officer for Vuri. Folan Meduke was there and he completes the story.
Outgoing Bakoma Zakios Elango transferred in the same capacity in the Douala 5. Incoming Ekwam Barugajam from the Douala 1. The installation was done in the presence of the senior divisional officer for Vuri Division, Joseph Mache Betrang, that equally witnessed the attendance of traditional rulers and other top administrators of the division. Prevalent in his new area of command, Douala 4 are high banditry, urban disorder, disagreement among the local population are some of the issues the new chieftain of this municipality has to fight.
I take the advantage of the commissioning of the new of Douala 4 to give him firm recommendation to enhance the living together that should take place definitely in this subdivision. He has to fight against urban disorder, who is rampant in this administrative unit. He has to fight against high banditry that is rampant in this administrative unit. But to attain such goals, he needs the collaboration of each and everyone.
Upon handing over bouquets of flowers and other significant gifts to the outgoing, it was time to welcome Ekwam Barugajam, the incoming. He was handed a scepter and a broom by his brothers from the Central region. A significance of taking over office. The two later moved to the office where the handing over was finally done with signing of papers and keys given to the senior divisional officer, which was later handed to the new DO.
In a similar story this time around the East region of the country, Vigilance Committee members of Nkum, Wama and Dume have been enjoined with the work in synergy with the authorities to maintain order in that area. The call came from the senior divisional officer for Dume while installing members and recognizing their efforts. Williams Amo Awa with the details.
These Vigilance Committee members of Nkum, Wama and Dome in the East region have been publicly given the right to work hand in glove with competent authorities to put out any condition of harm in that area while installing them to function legally. Henceforth, the senior divisional officer for Dome reminded them that they have a huge task to meet up with the challenge which has been publicly assigned to them. With joy and satisfaction, they seem to be more than aware of their functions.
On a la volonté de travailler, nous sommes toujours là pour travailler.
Demands from the state could not be sidelined.
Pour nous, c'est autant mieux d'avoir le matériel de travail que vraiment nous demandons. Et si on aurait vraiment des appuis pour nous, on serait du tout fiers.
The senior divisional officer worked with a list of members presented by the village chiefs.
Avec l'appui des chefs, nous avons eu la liste des comités de vigilance.
The day's exercise was iced with this good-natured atmosphere.
Staying vigilant or committed to the ideology of your party and keep being vigilant ahead of next year's election. This was a call made to CPDM militants of Bambatu Center 2 by members of the party's Central Committee during a conference organized recently at Babaju. Amadou Lobuba with the details.
Enlightening militants of the ruling CPDM political party on the new dynamism of the party was at the center of a conference organized at Babaju in the Bambutos division of the West region recently. Members of the Central Committee of the party, headed by Minister Emmanuel Nganu Njumisi, says that continued discussions with the grassroots militants is very important at this point in time to better prepare them ahead of next year's elections. They were urged to remain vigilant and keep to the ideal of the party, to follow instructions handed down from the hierarchy. Some worries, such as developing farms to market routes in some localities and the putting in place a bilingual technical college to serve the villages sharing boundary with the Northwest region. The mayor of Babaju, on his part, echoed on the importance of living in peace.
In another political story, three political parties, Manidem, Progressist and Pan-Africanist Front and Citizens Movement, have made public their stand on the Anglophone crisis. This was during a press briefing which they granted today in Douala. Philip Sote with that report.
Three political parties putting on the same thinking cap concerning the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. To them, it is a volcano that has accumulated, is continuously accumulating, and need to be diffused. They blame it all on the betrayal of the patriotic project of reunification by Amadou Ahidjo, John Gu Foncha, S.T. Mona, and others, while the current CPDM-led regime has perpetrated what they term the anti-patriotic policies. Manidem, the Progressist and Pan-Africanist Front, and the Citizen Movement states that the Anglophone crisis emanates from a deviation from the route charted by Cameroonian patriots and the UPC. They, however, affirm their unconditional attachment to a Cameroon united and indivisible, and go further to accuse the CPDM regime for having fragilized and continue to fragilize the roots of a new Cameroon through sectarian politics and overzealousness. As a permanent way out to what is almost becoming an impasse, the three groupings are advocating a national inclusive dialogue that they say is the wish of the political and social classes in the country.
Out of the country, Kenya police dispersed protesters calling for elections officials to be prosecuted and sacked, and that is after last month's presidential votes that was nullified. We have details with VOA.
And police used tear gas and batons on Tuesday to break up demonstrations near the Election Commission headquarters in Nairobi, calling for election officials to be prosecuted and fired before a rerun of the presidential election. According to a witness, when the protesters regrouped, security officers fired more tear gas and beat some of them with batons. Raila Odinga, who lost his bid to be elected president on August the 8th, will get another chance when the vote is rerun after the Supreme Court annulled the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta, citing irregularities.
And in Uganda, fierce debate continues over plans of removing age limits for the Constitution. Parliament is expected to take up the issue this week, with opposition planning on to continue resistance at that age limit of 75 years old. Once again, VOA.
Plans to scrap the presidential age limit in Uganda have met resistance both on the streets and in Parliament. Opposition lawmakers last week prevented the ruling party from introducing a motion seeking leave to propose the constitutional amendment. Critics of the age limit say it is discriminatory. Proponents say the age limit was included in the constitution to encourage the peaceful democratic transfer of power, something that Uganda is yet to experience. Despite a wave of arrests this month, the opposition says it will not back down.
It's not about the principle of age as to whether a 75-year-old cannot be president or not. That is vital in this consideration. It is whether it can check the presidency of Mr. Museveni, who ascended to power through force of arms and has stayed in power with the assistance of the military rather than the free will of the people of Uganda.
Enias Lukwago, the Lord Mayor of Kampala, was detained on September 18th, accused of trying to organize a protest.
They tore my clothes, they lifted me high, they kicked me, they harangued me, they all grabbed me and dumped me in a waiting truck because they come with a van. I think it is a custom-made van intended for that particular purpose. It looks like these trucks normally used to carry hound dogs.
Police have also raided the Kampala office of the international NGO Action Aid, confiscating documents and computers. Country Director Arthur LaRocque opposes lifting the presidential age limit.
As civil society, we are opposed to it completely, and we will do everything in our means to mobilize people, educate them, so they understand the dangers of Uganda has never had a peaceful transition since independence.
In 2005, Parliament scrapped presidential term limits from the Constitution. When it comes to the age limit, the ruling party says it is acting within the law.
My humble appeal to whoever is opposed to the bill and those who are supporting the bill, that we members of Parliament who are supporting it are doing what is within the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda.
Both sides are holding firm as the age limit debate returns to Parliament. Halima Athmani for VOA News, Kampala.
In the meantime, U.S. government is said to have pledged hundreds of dollars for humanitarian aid to Africa struggling with food insecurity and violence, as well as a new program for the fight against malaria. VOA once again.
At a luncheon with African leaders on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, President Donald Trump says he'll send his UN ambassador to Africa to discuss conflict resolution.
We're closely monitoring and deeply disturbed by the ongoing violence in South Sudan and in the Congo. Millions of lives are at risk, and we continue to provide humanitarian assistance.
$575 million is aimed at programs addressing violence and famine in South Sudan, Nigeria, Somalia, and Yemen, says USAID Administrator Mark Green.
It's everything from, again, food distributions to
immunizations to make sure that we're dealing with health needs, to when we can, beginning to look at resilience in food production and the local economy.
In the fight against malaria, there are new programs in Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Niger, and Sierra Leone. Some of the funding is new money, Green says, but other funds will come from existing programs. African Union Chairman and President of Guinea, Alpha Condé, took advantage of the opportunity of meeting President Trump to make this case.
Africa needs substantial investments for the emergence of a vibrant and resilient private sector, which can contribute to the enormous employment and empowerment needs of women and young people.
A call echoed by outgoing Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in this interview with VOA.
That's why officially we've done a whole lot. Because of our environment, the lack of infrastructure, basic things like roads and power upon which manufacturing and industry are based. Now that those things are now beginning to come on stream as a result of our work, they will be able to attract U.S. private investment.
In highlighting the opportunities that exist in Africa, President Trump referred not once but twice to the non-existent country of Nambia and said many of his friends are going to the continent to get rich. Although he was heavily criticized for his comments, American University professor Kweku Nwama said on Skype he wasn't particularly offended.
People invest in your country not necessarily because they want to help you. They want to help themselves too, and there's nothing wrong with that. They can get rich as long as Africans also get rich from their relationship. And hopefully, that's what's happening. Hopefully his friends are not going there to loot, but they're going there to create opportunities for everybody.
Nwama added that Africa doesn't have to have famine for the world to take notice. He says a true mutually beneficial relationship should go beyond responding to crises. Mariama Diallo, VOA News, Washington.
We talk sports in this newscast. The fourth edition of the Coupe of Lomé has ended over the weekend. The highly disputed finals also presented an opportunity to provide didactic material to school children as well as assistance to physically challenged persons. Williams Amoawa completes that story from the East region.
Promoting the development of sports and the detection of talent within the Lomé municipality were the main objectives of the 2017 edition of the King Zime football tournament, dubbed Cup of Lomé. The finals of this fourth edition was presided at by the divisional officer for Lomé, Isidore Chofo, at the Ecom Stadium. Ecom FC hosted Parliament FC in a match that registered no goal by half-time. As the players took to the restroom, this artist gave life to relax the tension as supporters of both sides anxiously expected a goal. At 90 minutes, numerous attempts were made with no goal. Penalty shootouts had to decide the fate of both sides. The god of football favored Ecom FC, 4 goals as against 3 for Parliament. The innovations for these 2017 finals was the assistance to physically challenged persons and the distribution of books to pupils and students by the council. Participating teams in the tournament received sporting equipment, while the champion and vice received 300,000 CFA francs and 200,000 CFA francs, respectively. The next appointment has been taken for 2018.
And it's on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that we close the curtains to this newscast. Don't go away because programs continue on the Dan Broadcasting System television. I will be with you again tomorrow, God willing, same time. Good night.